I swear to God, it tastes exactly like a McChicken. Today we're going to be making Exercise for Cheat Meals McChicken Recipe. So I'm trying out his recipe, I'm following every single step he did, and we're going to see how it turns out. First ingredient is 715 grams of chicken breast. So we're first going to cut it into cubes. Now we're going to put in the food processor. So we're actually going to use tongs just so I don't have to touch the chicken again. We're going to put it all into the food processor. So what I did was I took the chicken out of the food processor and actually put it into two separate bowls. The recipe calls for 7 grams of swerve and 14 grams of salt. So I took my two bowls, I split the chicken up from the food processor, I added the 7 grams of swerve, the 14 grams of salt, mixed it together with the tongs. Wrap it up with saran wrap and put it into the freezer. Alright, so these are going to go in the freezer for 15 minutes. While the chicken's in the freezer for 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to show you the 3 dredging stations. Okay, the first one is going to be 10 grams of cornstarch and also 110 grams of water. Second part of the station is your dry ingredients, and it's flour with a bunch of spices. We started with 75 grams of flour, 3 grams of garlic powder, 2 grams of paprika, 3 grams of sea salt, 2 grams of white pepper, 3 grams of black pepper. Okay, so here's the third station. It's 1 egg and 34 grams of egg white. So there's 2 grams of baking powder in here. We're gonna add in our 34 grams of egg whites. You wanna go slow with egg whites. Sometimes there's a delay to the scale. Okay, that's 34 grams exactly, and then 1 egg. This is station 3 of 3. So this was our first station, which was 10 grams of cornstarch. I'm gonna put it in there because I'm almost ready to get my chicken going. So we have our 3 dredging stations. The first one's the cornstarch and water. The second one's the flour with a bunch of spices. And the third one's the egg with the baking soda. In the video, he explains it makes your life a little bit easier if you take about a quarter of your flour and put it onto a plate so you could sprinkle it on top of the chicken patties as you make them. So we just took out our 715 grams of chicken from the freezer. Okay, so first we're gonna form the patties, then we're gonna put them in our 3 dredge stations. So now, since it's cold, it makes it a little bit easier. We're just gonna kind of pick it up like you would when you're making a meatball or anything else and just kind of stick it together and try to, press it together and make it into a patty shape. I eyeballed it out, so it's not exactly a fifth per one, but we're just gonna go with it. Okay, so then Nick also said you have a dry hand and a wet hand. Here's gonna be my wet hand. I'm gonna take my plate. Okay, so there we go. Here's the patty. Put it into the liquid. Then we're gonna flip it, so now it's wet all around. Okay, so to me, it's breaking apart a little bit. So hopefully, once I put it in the flour, stick together better. So you can see it kind of fell apart a little bit. So this is the dry hand. And like Nick said, he uses this extra plate of the flour and puts it right on top. Oh, this is really falling apart. All right, so I definitely messed up a little bit. Maybe I didn't press it together hard enough to try to shape it together a little bit more. Now the next step's gonna be putting in the egg. I'm gonna use this little spatula here because it's falling apart a little bit. And then that goes back into the dry for one last time. Okay, so we're gonna go with a wet spatula and a dry spatula. Let's see if I could do better on the other one. If you can see, it's kind of falls apart. So I'm gonna try to really mash it in together so it stays together better. So you can see I was way more rough with this one. Okay, so we have 3 patties where we're supposed to have 5, but I'll be honest, this was definitely the hardest thing I've ever made. You have these chicken pieces that are kind of coming apart. They're not really together. So what I learned is if you really mash it down, it will stay more together. But just a disclaimer, this is definitely a very difficult recipe. I'm thinking that these 3 are gonna come out really good, but just so you can see, I have 2 more patties here, but I ran out of flour, and the flour has 8 different ingredients. So the macros are gonna be messed up. Nick says to preheat the air fryer to 400. 4 little sprays on each side so it could get a little bit of the oil. So this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna take a plate here and then flip it over to Pam the other side. So just like I said, you could kind of see it's dry. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just gonna flip it right in. All 3 are in there, and he said about 20 minutes. About a 1-second spray, and we're gonna toast the buns. You ain't got no buns, hon. All right, so we got our buns in here. We got the air fryer almost done. I'm just gonna shred some lettuce. It's got that little bit of McDonald's look right now. So we got 2 right here, bottom bun, top bun. So I definitely messed up. They're not a fifth of the weight anymore. Who really knows the macros at this point? We're just gonna hope that they're delicious. So we ran into some roadblocks here, but the end product looks pretty good. I had 2 patties that I wasn't even able to make. So that means that each of these 3 are way higher in calories because we used the amount of flour that was supposed to be for 5 for 3. The pepper's everything. So it actually has that crunch. It has that crunch. Like, I don't know if you could hear it, but it's got the crunch. It's got the lettuce and mayo with the bun. Got the buttery bun, the really peppery chicken. You got the crunch. I think it tastes like the McChicken. Oh, there is no dads. We ate it. We split it and ate it. Just say it came out really bad. All right, guys, so that was a really long process. It was honestly a really difficult recipe to make, but it tasted amazing. The McChicken literally tasted exactly like a McChicken. Once again, I'm not even gonna put the macros up because I screwed them up immensely. I didn't even break the chicken out into fifths. Ones in these 3 were way bigger than a fifth, I think. And also I used all the flour on 3 of them. So I messed up the macros pretty bad here, but you get the taste. Honestly though, for the amount of work and the amount of calorie difference, it's probably not worth your time and effort if you're trying to really get lean and spend your time appropriately with your diet and lifestyle to make choices that actually matter. Absolutely tastes like it. Super impressive recipe to Nick. I know he likes to have a lot of fun with making different recipes and doing a lot of effort, but all right, so we're gonna wrap the video up there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Give me a subscribe if you're feeling generous. Shout out Jesse James West. Give me a like. Shout out to Omar. This is his shirt. Carbs are bad. This was a freaking awesome recipe. Way too much work though, but it was awesome. Tastes exactly like the McChicken.